Shada is notorious for being the only Doctor Who story that was never completed. There have been numerous attempts to reconstruct it over the years. Big Finish did an audio version with Paul McGann, which I remember watching on the BBC website with basic flash animation. And more recently there was a novelisation by Gareth Roberts, which was quite good. So I am familiar with the story, but I had never seen the existing footage, until now. The most recent reconstruction puts all the existing footage together and fills the gaps with animated reconstructions. And everyone involved has clearly gone to a lot of effort to make sure the new and old scenes blend together as well as they possibly can. The first surprise is that they managed to film a lot more of the story than I ever thought. The first 2 episodes are only missing a handful of scenes, the next 2 maybe half and half, and the final 2 episodes are almost entirely animated. The animation used to reconstruct the missing scenes is actually rather good. Technically, it's a lot better than some of the animated versions of Doctor Who episodes that have been reconstructed over the years. And as a bonus, they've even recreated the final TARDIS scene in live action. There's no explanation for why the Doctor suddenly looks 40 years older. So it is a bit jarring and definitely breaks the fourth wall. But I guess if you have the chance to record Tom Baker in character as the Doctor on the TARDIS set, well, you'd be crazy to say no. And it is good to see him play the character for possibly the final time. The location scenes shot in Cambridge are a definite high point. After so many studio-based stories, it's great to see them going outside again. And they've taken full advantage of the beautiful city to film in as many locations as they can. Of course, it is similar to all the location shooting they did in Paris for City of Death. But it still feels novel to see this Doctor in an actual city full of people, instead of the countryside or quarries where they usually film. The studio-based scenes are decent enough. A lot of them take place in Professor Kenotis' study. And for anyone who's read Douglas Adams' novel Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, a lot of these scenes will be familiar. And it's really interesting to see the original versions of them playing out. The set appears in every episode, which is obviously a money-saving measure. But it's good that they kept using it. It does at least mean they managed to film some scenes from every single episode. The more futuristic sets are nothing special, just generic white space stations and spaceships. And I suspect had they managed to build the remaining sets, they would have looked similar. But of course, there's no way of knowing. The big monsters of the series are the Krags, and they look a lot more impressive in animation, when they're basically just an evil dark shadow with glowing eyes. The live-action versions are nowhere near as impressive, though they do have an interesting flame effect, which may or may not have been present had they made the show at the time. The story itself feels a bit stretched out, as do most 6-parters, and it could easily have fitted into 4. There's a lot of travel between spaceships and space stations, which could definitely have been cut down. There's a lot of interesting ideas, as you would expect from a Douglas Adams script, but the dialogue is nowhere near up to the standard of City of Death. But then again, what is? And there are some definite loose ends. Skagra's background is only explained in a hurried voiceover at the end, which may or may not have been present in the original script. And after Professor Kenotis' secret is revealed, he just kind of vanished from the story. I know the original actor died, but surely they could have hired a sound-alike to record his lines for animation, as there's a lot of remaining questions about his character that just never get answered. The guest cast are all decent enough. Dennis Carey is endearingly absent-minded as Professor Kenotis. It's not entirely clear how he manages to come back from the dead, but it's good to see him back all the same. Christopher Nemus Skagra spends most of his recorded scenes just striding around Cambridge in a ridiculous costume. Most of his dialogue scenes are left to animation, so it's unclear how he would have come across in live action. There is also room for 2 hangers-on, Daniel Hill as Chris and Victoria Burgoyne as Claire. They're basically 2 additional companions for this story, and Chris at least could have been a decent regular companion. I won't be giving this a mark as it's not really complete, but judging by what we have, it would definitely have been worth a 7 or maybe an 8, and it would certainly have been one of the high points of the season, second only to City of Death. It's a real shame they never managed to finish it, but this version is probably the closest we're ever going to get to seeing how it would have been, at least until they can recreate it with photorealistic AI animation. And that's probably still 5 or 10 years away. Next week I'll be looking at all the behind-the-scenes extras in the Season 17 Blu-ray, which includes lots of behind-the-scenes footage for various versions of Shada. I figure it'll probably take me all week to get through the lot. So I won't be moving on to the Legend Hive just yet. So subscribe if you want to see that, and I'll see you next time.